I've got a question for Andrew Weissmann, and this was something that I noticed during the arguments. I believe it was Justice Gorsuch. He was presenting a hypothetical to Dreeben, and he said, "What if a president organizes a peaceful sit-in at the Capitol, and one that disrupts legislation, disrupts the lawful proceeding of votes? Would that be criminal?" That seemed to be a hypothetical that just sits right next to what happened on January 6th. And it felt like Dreeben didn't quite have an answer for that.
So I disagree.
OK, tell me why.
Exactly. I mean, I know that you're asking for that because I think he did. And a couple of points. One, Michael Dreeben was asked, was he there just in his role as sort of counsel for the special counsel, or were you there speaking for the Department of Justice as essentially as part of the Solicitor General's office? And he said, I have consulted with the Solicitor General and I'm speaking for the department. And it's because he said the case raises issues that go far beyond just the special counsel case. And so that's where his history with the Solicitor General's office was so important. And I think that's something that Neil and Joyce and I, having worked with him, know. This was a classic, masterful Dreeben performance. There's no question that it helps with all of the justices in terms of its credibility. I think what he did with Justice Gorsuch is he brought it back to what that criminal case would look like. At one point, Justice Gorsuch said, for instance, so you're saying he could be prosecuted for a mistake in terms of doing this? And he said, what are you talking about? A mistake doesn't apply to criminal law. There would have to be intent to have obstructed this. But if and Justice Gorsuch ultimately had to say, OK, would he be prosecuted if he went to his attorney general and his attorney general said, there's no valid basis to hold that meeting. You're doing it to just obstruct Congress. I'm telling you that you have the power to do it, but you should not do it because it will interfere with Congress. And then the president does it anyway. Under that situation, you're then within the criminal law. Remember, criminal law is not about a mistake. We've looked at this.
So he went through the layers at the time.
Exactly. And said, and think about all of the layers of protection. The president of the United States can consult so many different lawyers, White House counsel, the attorney general. And remember, you have to have the prosecutor you have the good faith of the prosecution. You have the requirement of a grand jury. You have to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt in the courts of law. And then finally, Michael Dreeben said, and there are these courts. If it's selective prosecution, you can throw it out. There are all sorts of protections for that kind of concern.
That was an interesting answer because the conservatives said, well, isn't the president in a unique position where he is making or she is making decisions that are uniquely potentially problematic, and you have to make them in the moment, and it's a high stakes situation, and that's why presidents need to be immune. And the answer that Dreeben had was that, yes, they are in a unique position, but also because they have all of this legal advice at their disposal in every moment that they are in office. The best for every decision, presumably.
And I think the backup to that is one which was somewhat shocking to me because the history is not debatable, and yet you had Justice Thomas suggesting the opposite. But Ketanji Brown Jackson, she was saying, and let's look at the history. All of these presidents have managed to make tough calls and not get prosecuted because they're not violating the criminal laws. And when Michael Dreeben was asked about that, well, what about this decision? What about that decision? He said, but those are not criminal. There's nothing about even a drone strike that is actually violating the criminal laws. So they really could look at the history and say, you know what, you don't need this. And nothing about our history suggests that you do need it. This sort of parade of horribles is one that, yes, the first person who's being subjected to this kind of prosecution is raising it, but you don't see a litany of problems here.
Yeah, but Kavanaugh was saying it's not about this one, it's not necessarily about the past ones. He was talking about the future, suggesting that we're maybe in a different moment today than we've been in the past, where political prosecutions might become more normal.
Yeah,
and I think after, to do it.
Including after they leave office and what kind of chilling effect that might have.
And this is the point that Joyce is making, which is like, okay, are you more worried about a president doing what Donald Trump is alleged to have done before, during, and after his presidency, Or do you think you've built enough checks and balances in the system? And certainly based on our history, there's nothing to suggest that presidents need immunity because they've managed to do just fine for over 200 years without it.